Rose, anti-readers are on.
Welcome, councillors, to this live-streamed meeting of the Customer Service and Transformation Scrutiny Committee at Bolsover District Council. This is a public meeting being streamed live to YouTube and via the council's website. If for any reason the public can no longer hear or see the meeting over the live stream, We will adjourn the meeting until the connection has been re-established. This meeting is also being recorded. Can the facilitator confirm who is in remote attendance at this meeting? Over to you, Hannah, please.
Thank you, Chair. So when I call your name, can you confirm you can see and hear the meeting? So first of all, Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, I can see and hear everybody. Thank you.
Councillor Heffer.
Yeah, I can see and hear. Thank you.
Councillor Bryson.
Yes, I can see and hear. Thank you.
Councillor Bowler.
Yes, I can see and hear. Okay.
Councillor Bailey.
Yes, I can see and hear you. Thank you.
Councillor Josbury.
Yeah, everything fine. Thank you.
Councillor Dooley.
Yes, can see and hear you. Thank you.
Councillor Clark.
Yes, I can hear and see you. Thanks.
Councillor Cooper.
Yes, I can hear and see you. Thank you.
And Councillor Clough.
Yes, I can hear and see you. Thank you.
And then officers in remote attendance is Matt Broughton, Joe Wilson, Tom Scott and myself. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hannah. I will now ask the facilitator to explain some of the procedures for the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Before we start the meeting, members are reminded of the meeting etiquette that has been circulated to them. All members should have their microphones off during the meeting unless you wish to speak and you have been called on. Members attending remotely, please leave your cameras on during the meeting. Also, for the remote members, to request to speak, please use the chat function to type speak or raise your hand on camera. The chair will then call on you to speak during the discussion debate. When a vote is to be taken, this will be by show of hands. For those attending remotely, please ensure your hand is visible on camera. If any member is disconnected from the meeting, please try to rejoin as quickly as possible. If you have any technical difficulties, please contact one of the support officers assigned to this meeting in the email to you. If you're about to speak, the meeting will wait a few moments for you to rejoin. Chair, I will hand back to you to start the agenda.
Thank you. I will now begin the agenda. Item 1 then, apologies for absence. Could the clerk confirm if we've received any apologies for today, please?
Thank you, Chair. I've received apologies from Councillor Rita Turner.
Thank you. Do members have any other apologies to note? I think we're all in attendance, aren't we? So we'll move on to item 2, then urgent items. I've not been advised of any urgent items for today's meeting. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest members wish to make? Could I ask the facilitator to confirm any members wishing to speak?
No hands are raised, Chair.
Lovely, thank you. So we'll move on to item 4, minutes. Within the agenda pack, starting on page 5, we have the minutes from 8th of February for approval. I'd like to move these as a true and accurate record of the meeting. And could I have a seconder, please?
Seconded, Chair. Councillor Ray Heffer.
Thank you. Is everybody in favour of that, please?
That's all in favour, Chair.
Lovely, thank you. Right, agenda item 5, then list of key decisions. The link to the most current version of this document can be found on page 8 of the agenda pack. Could I ask the scrutiny officer to brief members on the report, please? Over to you, Jo.
Thank you, Chair. There's a bit of a mix in terms of the items on the list of key decisions this time, as some items actually went to the February meeting, so they are already approved at this stage. But we do have a number of items that are scheduled for decision in March. So the first item on the list currently is purchase of development land in relation to Bolsover Home Scheme. This is a new item that's only recently been added, but the relevant scrutiny chair has been notified of this. That's an exempt item, and the contact officer for that is Ian Barber, Head of Property Services and Housing Repairs. There's also an item on the local authority mortgage scheme, again an exempt item. Contact officer is Chris Fridlington, Assistant Director of Development and Planning. Further items for March are the corporate debt write-off reports, which is the contact officer of Section 151 officer, Head of Finance and Resources. There is an update on housing enforcement and community safety from Victoria Dawson, Head of Housing Management and Enforcement. and there is a report on the Ministry for Housing, Communities and Local Government Community Champions Funding Award. The contact officer for that is Pam Brown, Head of Leaders Executive and Partnerships, and I believe there has been some recent press coverage of that by the comms team. Items within the document that have already been approved at the February exec include a report on the new build scheme within Whitwell, Sandy Lane and Thorpe Avenue area. There was also a report on the Director Award for external wall insulation works, an update on the discretionary grant funding that we are currently providing to local businesses. And that completes the report, Chair. Do members have any particular questions on the items? Or are you happy just to note the update?
With that, then I would like to move that we note the report. And can I have a seconder, please?
Seconded, Rose.
Thank you, Ray.
Councillor, I believe Councillor Dixon had his hands up as well, Chair.
Okay. Are you all in favour of that?
That's all in favour, Chair.
Lovely, thank you. Right, then if we move on to agenda item 6, the transformation programme update. We now have a verbal report from the Head of Transformation and Organisation updating us on the current activity of the transformation plan and the work of the Transformation Governance Group. Members have copies of papers starting on page 9, and if I could pass over to Matt, please.
Morning, everybody. You all right?
Yes, thank you.
Good. I am going to screen share and run through the presentation that's in the pack. Just a couple of things. I've just made a few very minor changes on the presentation. I will point them out for the record where I've made them. But generally, it is the quotes from the leadership programme in the main. You'll see when we get there. There's some quotes. It's difficult when I'm screen sharing. It's difficult. I can't see everybody. So in terms of asking questions, I'm more than happy to answer questions as we go through the meeting as we normally would when we're in a room. But just please bear in mind it's a little bit more difficult for me to see you to answer those questions. So if you can either speak or do it through some of the officers, that would be really helpful. Okay, here goes nothing. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, I can't seem to get it into presentation mode. Let me just see if I can. I'm going to work through it as it is. Oh, no, it's happening. Okay. So the update today is about, obviously, the transformation programme. The key point is in October 2020, Executive considered some changes to the transformation programme. And that is really what I'm updating on today. So it's a transition from old to new. So just as a refresher, transformation programme started in, it was December 2018. So we're just over 2 years old. And the transformation plan is underpinned by the other documents you can see there on the screen. So there's a document around Leadership Academy or programme, around digital transformation strategy for the council and the council's carbon reduction plan. Many projects are underway. Transformation is not just about finance, it's about many things which we'll cover in this presentation. Significant progress has been made, and progress reports, if members are interested, there's various progress reports that have been to executive. January 20 was the annual review after the first year. October 20 was the report that I've spoken about today with the changes to the transformation programme. And then February 2021 summarised a lot of the carbon reduction things that have been done in recent times. So just for reference. So what we're trying to achieve as of the transformation programme, hopefully this is familiar to you all by now. Again, it isn't just around finance. It's the environmental side, which I think we've made a lot of progress on. Digital transformation, the irony being that we're all doing this virtually. Organisation transformation, so that's around services and staff and things around the leadership programme. Transforming our finances, pretty much says it for itself. And then transforming services, making sure that services are delivering in future what we want them to deliver, or what councillors and executive want to be delivering to the community to the highest standard. So the work around service transformation, this is very much centred around service plans. So new administration comes in, we set the council ambition, and then the next thing is to work through the service plans. So service plans and service reviews were originally two separate things. Service reviews were under the transformation programme, aimed at what's outlined in that top right hand corner there in the little pink box. When COVID happened, there was a recognition that services might change quicker or need to change quicker than we originally planned. So by the end of 2021 might not be right for some service areas. So what we chose to do is combine the service review process with the service plan process, and added a couple of bits to the normal service plan process, which completed in October 2020. Yes, October 2020. That's a typo there. Sorry, apologies on that second bullet point. That should be October 2020. So where we are today are all service plans have been developed, reviewed and signed off by both heads of service and portfolio holders, and then action plans for each service area, outlining how it gets to where the service needs to be in 3 years' time, being identified, and it's now the role of officers to work through that action plan alongside portfolio holders. The notable thing for transformation programme in the service plan process was something called a 5%, 10% budget challenge, which was not suggesting that budgets would be reduced by 5% or 10%, but posed the question to get service managers thinking of what would happen in that scenario. So a question was posed to each head of service and service managers. You're saying what would happen if your budget was 5% less than it was? What would happen if your budget was 10%? And depending on service areas, that could be addressed by income generation. It could be addressed by reducing costs on subscriptions, and some areas are much more difficult, as I'm sure you understand, where they're pretty much 100% salary service area. So that process is a legacy and is still going on from the service plans, with Section 151 officer Teresa and Lee Hickin, and supported by external audit. Mazars are really interested in what we're doing here, and it's all around future planning, and hopefully government finances and the like support the budgets as we have today, and we can deliver as we are today, but we just need to be aware and plan for things in the future. So that's what that area is. Moving on to transforming finances. So you might be familiar, transformation project numbers, I think you've probably had these previously, but in total, there was 128 transformation project ideas when we did the original suggestion box. Those were filtered into 57 projects. So as you can imagine, a lot of people came up with the same idea or very similar ideas that could be combined into projects. So that's where that reduction comes from. And then 43 projects are either in progress or progressed significantly. And then 12 of those projects have completed. And there is an update on the extranet of where all those projects are and comments for both officers and members. As I said previously, not all projects deliver financial savings, but a vast majority do. And it's something that we need to keep battling with a transformation program. It's easy to think it's just about finance, and it's much broader than that. So this is the details I was talking about in the October executive report. So what was recognised in that report, and I think I won't go over it because I think I came to this committee to give an overview of the report, but it was just a refresh, streamlining the process, removing any duplication in terms of chasing or monitoring finances, and then a move to strategic projects, which are outlined on the screen there, and the continuation of the leadership academy. And that's just a summary of the financial savings through transformation program ideas to date. That's been audited. So audit have signed off on that 880,000. I would suggest that there is not much more than that, but there is more than that. Obviously, this was the problem with monitoring. You can't monitor every single project and every single improvement, and in every single improvement identify a financial benefit because the monitoring outweighs the value of the saving itself. But they're the key points. Digital transformation. So since 2018, December 18, we've done the new website in response to customer feedback, being more simplistic, transaction based, and a big one for certainly the last 6 months has been making it accessible for all. And we've made some real progress there, and have got some really good scores. There's more to do, but in terms of assessing the website, we've got some really good scores through the evaluation tools that we have. Implementation of virtual meeting and enabling large-scale home working. So obviously, COVID presented us both this challenge and this opportunity. I think where it is noting is the council investment in digital transformation that it had done previously meant that we were prepared, not prepared for COVID. I'm sure we all struggled with that, but we had infrastructure in place. So if, for instance, the MicroLab solution, being able to divert home phones to officers' mobiles, that was in place. All of the home working virtual software that's needed was all in place. S Drive, so we can share things remotely, was all in place. So a lot of infrastructure. What we didn't have, what we had to invest in, is the scale. So for instance, laptops and the like. Again, I'm not going to cover it in detail because I know with my ICT hat on, you've done that previously as well. Implementation of gov.delivery. So if you're not familiar with this, we rolled it out or started our training on it in December. So gov.delivery is direct messaging to customers. So the best example, and the one that we're working on, which at the moment seems to give us the biggest impact, is, for instance, text message or email bin reminders before the day of putting out the bin. And similarly, if we know, for instance, we can't get down a street due to weather or parking or whatever reason that is, the ability to send a message out to customers who have signed up to let them know that that's the case. Obviously, the benefit of that is significantly improved customer service, but it also stops the phone ringing in contact centres and reduces the amount of inquiries. It has much wider uses, so news, if anybody is signed up to Derbyshire County Council's news bulletins, it's the same service that we've got as Derbyshire County Council have signed up to. Redesigning self-service, again, this is something that's ongoing, but I think what's worth noting is in 2018 we had 14 online forms where we were able to do online transactions, or customers were able to do online transactions. Today that stands at around 80. I would suggest it's probably closer to 90 now. Again, that's been accelerated by both the digital strategy and the corporate aim to be 50% digital transactions, but also remote working for officers have made some service areas think about their service areas differently, and we have a lot of requests now about services going online. So a good example there, just skipping down 2 bullet points, is all taxi driver and driver license transactions are 100% online. Before COVID, that wasn't the case. COVID presented a challenge in that taxi drivers couldn't come into the building, certainly on the first lockdown, and a digital solution's been put in which is working very well and probably won't ever go back now. So the usage of online self-service, and again, there'll probably some COVID impact in here, but we've seen nearly a 300% increase in usage between 2018 and 2021. Obviously, that's twofold. More services are available. We're promoting the services better, but I suppose it is worth noting that people in general are using more online because of COVID at the moment. It will be interesting to see whether that stays there, and I think that's the test of the quality of our online services, if it stays at that level in the future. And then again, meeting accessibility but using technology, introduction of a video relay service across the council to improve accessibility of services for the deaf community. So for those that don't know what that is, it's a call centre which uses Zoom video conference type technology, and in that call centre there are BSL translators, British Sign Language translators. So if we get a deaf person coming to make an inquiry on an inquiry desk and we can't translate BSL, that customer advisor points them to an iPad that can link them to a translator, and that translation can happen there and then, giving the accessibility to our services and resolving people's inquiry, which is really useful. So moving on to organisational transformation. So this is in the main around the leadership programme. And Jo might be able to comment on her experiences because Jo was part of the 12 in the first cohort that is outlined on the screen here. So we have completed the first 12. It's taken a little longer than we would have liked. That's both for the organisation and for the staff themselves that were on the first cohort. COVID obviously had a big play in that, and we took a decision to do the last few sessions on Zoom to try and complete the programme. I've just provided some feedback. We've just done a questionnaire and a feedback session with that cohort, and on screen there at the bottom is some of the feedback from there. So certainly positive. We know we need to improve the programme. We've got lessons learned around perhaps virtual wasn't the right environment to do training such as this in, but overall extremely positive feedback, which is really useful. And obviously it's about investing in our own staff and identifying potential future leaders and giving them the exposure and the training that they need to support their development. In addition to the leadership programme, through the apprenticeship scheme mainly, I've only got a figure for Bolsover and North East jointly and joint officers, but 29 staff have enrolled in accredited leadership training, and that's right from MBA down to entry-level leadership training, the full scope. So as an organisation, we are investing in future leaders, which is what was outlined in the programme. Projects were delivered as part of the cohort of leadership projects, but also just in general. And I've provided 2 updates here. So you'll all be familiar with AMAR. So AMAR had an interest in, or has an interest in gym and physical activity, and wanted to do, as part of his training, he needed to do a project and would like to do it around leisure centres. So it was a North East example actually, because we have PTs at Bolsover, but AMAR was pulled a business case together and reviewed 3 options around personal trainers and putting them into the centres at North East Derbyshire. He did a great piece of work, completed that project, and the outcome is it's increased the income there by £8,000 in that project. And then I think there is, hopefully you're all aware of the one below, which is Olive Fishburne's Selling Council Services package, which has gone out to all parish councils, and that was a long-standing transformation project, which was, to be fair to Ollie, was a bit like trying to herd sheep at times, with getting service managers all aligned and all identifying what they can and can't do and what price is the right price to do that work. So just some examples there. There are many more the leadership programme have done. Electric car vehicle leasing schemes, looked at Amazon drop points, so that wide and varied, but just some examples there. Environmental transformation, this is certainly priority-wise since 2018, raised in terms of, I would say, national priority and awareness. And similarly, we've done that as well within the council. And I know some of colleagues on this call and members on this call are part of the separate group that looks through this. And what is worth noting is when we made the transformation programme leaner, the group that we kept was the climate change group, because of the, I think, importance for us all, and clearly it's a bigger agenda in its own right. So just some updates there. Just for time, I'm not proposing to run through those. There's some on the next page as well. I will point you in the direction of the February 21 exec report, which summarises those reports, all those actions, and provides much better detail. Obviously happy to take questions if you have them on any of that. So just to summarise, progress on the transformation programme 2018 is good. We've demonstrated that through various reports to executive. There was a need to change the programme, and that's exactly what transformation is. Continually evolving, continuous improvement, and that's why we've moved to a different approach. That approach is underpinned by the Transformation Governance Group, which Councillor Dooley chairs. The role of that group is, I suppose, what we've done is outline that to deliver the remaining transformation programme, the strategic projects are where we are hanging our hat, and there's also we need to keep an eye and keep the leadership programme moving, and service reviews ensure that 5 and 10% continue to be managed and progressed. So that's the role of the Transformation Governance Group, just making sure, for instance, if as things change, they may do. So, for instance, I'll choose one of my own projects. The build programme doesn't turn out as we envisaged, then we know that we might have a jigsaw piece missing in the transformation programme, and we might need to have a look at that. So that's the role of the Transformation Governance Group. We've got a strong leadership programme developed, and we can improve that further. Audited financial efficiencies already at £800,000, although caution regarding all things finance, because as you save 800,000, you can grow the establishment 800,000 as well. Looking at any number in isolation is risky in terms of finance. Huge growth in available digital services and the use of digital services, an estimated annual reduction in CO2, certainly at the end of next financial year, in excess of 1,000 tonnes, which is fantastic, and has also triggered that we need to review the carbon reduction plan. The carbon reduction plan set out 750 tonnes of CO2 reduction in 3 years. Thankfully, we've overachieved on that goal. Also, government legislation has changed and probably will again following the future climate change meeting in, I think is it Cornwall? So there might be further announcements in terms of government initiatives. So with all of that moving feast, we need to look at the data and look at our carbon reduction plan again. And that's it. Happy to take any questions.
Has anybody got any questions or comments?
Councillor Dixon and Councillor Clough are both indicating to speak.
Thank you. David, would you like to go first?
Yeah, you probably won't be able to answer this, Matt, but when I look at on the environmental, and we talk about, you know, reduction in CO2 at 1,000 tonne, which, yeah, obviously that's great. I just wonder, has anybody actually done a calculation in terms of to get this reduction in carbon against capital outlay and then cost savings? Because there's a capex cost and there's an opex. Has anybody, do you know whether anybody's looked at that? So is there you know, what kind of price are we paying?
Yeah,
I'm not saying that we shouldn't, you know, have carbon reduction, but at what cost?
100% agree. In the February exec report, we've given some indications, and I can't remember off my head what they are, but so the investment we were making in one of the recommendations in the February report was to purchase only renewable electricity. And we weighed that cost per carbon, pound per carbon, up against, for example, the other extreme is a fleet of electric bin wagons. So for those two examples, we worked out the cost per carbon. We are fully aware and on the same page in terms of it. You could invest and invest and invest and bankrupt ourselves, or invest in the things that don't give us the biggest carbon return for the pound. So we are aware of that. It's something that we are developing. It's very difficult. So as I said, signing up to a renewable tariff, for instance, it's very difficult to quantify exactly what the carbon saving is of that, because there would be some, even now, there would be some green energy within our grid that we're purchasing, and we'll never know how much that is. So it's a lot of it is subjective, and it's all the carbon calculations that were made are based upon BEIS information. So Department of Environment, and that changes. So just that changes on a certainly an annual basis because of the carbon reduction that's going on in the national grid as well. So it's all a moving feast. So it's very difficult for us to pinpoint and say exactly it's 1,000 tons. We're only giving indications to say we're moving in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, I know. And I look at, I think, certified renewable energy. I think there's what they call it greenwashing, don't they?
Yeah, and you'll see.
Yeah, because in reality, I think there are only 2 companies in the UK that offer actual renewable source energy. I don't think there's any other company. Everybody else, it's all based on certificates.
Yeah,
it's cheaper for them. It's cheaper for them to buy those certificates. I am quite skeptical about it.
If you'll see in the report, we have tried to address that in the report, because we're aware of that. It's a bit, when climate change levy came out originally, it was the same. People were trading with the climate change levy. In the commercial market, what we were offered, and again, it's broken down in the report, eventually, or in the next year or two, the ability for us as an organisation to purchase direct from a supplier. So I don't know who runs the wind farm on the East Coast, but for instance, you can have an agreement direct with that supplier, and that's the next stage. Well, what we outlined in the report was, if nothing else, we are giving a signal to the market that says that we want to purchase certified renewable electricity to generate, to clearly signal that there is a demand for it. And if that helps investors in the future invest in the green economy and in green infrastructure, that's part of it as well. We're not as too naive to say absolutely we're waving a flag to say it saved us. I think it's 700 tons. I think that one move saves, if you do it strictly in terms of calculation. We're not naive enough to be waving that flag, but I think what we are saying is it's a significant step forward, and it's something that we feel we should be doing as a local authority.
How long is this tariff lasting for that we're going?
It's our normal procurement route, so it's a 12-month.
12 months.
Every 12 months.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, thank you, David. Patricia?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Matt. My question relates to the trusted services from Ollie Fishburn, and I'd like to know how he's got the message out to parish councils, because I sit on parish councils and I've not heard the message. So I'm wondering if there's been block between, say, the clerks, and so I wondered if you could answer that.
We did anticipate that, and we sent 100 and something, maybe more, hard copies to all parish councillors. So we directly gave hard copies to all parish councillors. I can take that back and review that. We also obviously sent one to the parish council and sent an electronic version to the parish council as well. But through the partnership team, we distributed hard copies to parish councillors. If that hasn't, obviously the proof in the pudding is on the screen. So if people haven't received that, then let me know and I can look into it. But that's the intention, and there might have been a few missed, but that was overall the approach.
Matt,
If I have sorry, Chair.
I was just going to check, Matt, were they sent to the individual councillors' houses or to the clerk?
I'll have to confirm that. I don't know where the data came from.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Patricia.
It was just to say that, you know, I've had a difficult year, so I might have missed that. So could I have mine sent digitally, please?
Yeah. No, I've never received one either as a town councillor.
Okay. Yes, David.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I can't remember when it was. I can't remember receiving anything like that. However, I do remember at Barber Parish in the leader, Pam Brown, actually came to see us to offer these services. But I don't remember any documentation associated with it.
Okay, thank you. So we take that back and have a look at it for us, Matt, please.
Yeah, with your approval, is it? Oh, shall I circulate to this group anyway?
Yes,
after
please.
the meeting,
Yes,
and then I'll have a look into it.
Okay, that's brilliant. Has anybody else got any comments or questions?
No one else is indicating a wish to speak, Chair.
Lovely, thank you. There's just a couple of things I want to mention, Matt. One regarding the enquiries email with the contact centre. That was very slow to start with, but I have used it quite a few times in the past year, and it is quite really swift now. And I do think we're getting a better response from it. So that's a good improvement. They also 100% online with the licence and that is really good, and that will help with carbon reduction as well. But the personal trainers you're going at North East Derbyshire, will they be introducing them at Bolsover?
We've already got them.
Got them, all right.
Yeah, it was anomaly that North East didn't have them, and the project was around: do you set your own staff on? Do you bring a company in, or do you train your own staff internally to deliver it? So that was the project in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. Right, if nobody's got anything else, then I would like to move that we note the current progress and future plans within the presentation. And can I have a seconder, please?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Ray. Are you all in favour?
That's all in favour, Chair.
Lovely, thank you. And thank you for presenting, Matt. And you're free to leave the meeting.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Chair, I also will be leaving the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay, right, we'll move to agenda item 7 then, the work programme 2021. Moving on, we shall now consider our work programme for the coming year, and I'll pass over to the scrutiny officer to present. Thank you, Jo.
Thank you, Chair. If I could direct members to the end of the appendix, so it's pages 26, 27 of your papers. We're obviously towards the end of this municipal year now, We've actually only got one more meeting scheduled on the 17th of May where we've got Q4 performance. But I am conscious that we've got a number of bits of work that we are currently looking at. It may be sort of capacity pending that we look to try and fit in an extra informal meeting, or it may be that we need to do some extra communication over email to just catch up on the work that we've been doing and get members to confirm they're happy with some of the ideas that we've been discussing. Obviously, we've got an informal meeting today where we'll be able to look at that. And I would imagine we'll have another informal meeting following the May meeting as well. At this stage, we haven't got a formal plan for a scrutiny conference as we would normally have on an annual basis, given how we've been operating. But most of the committees are already in a stage where they're mid-review, because a lot of the reviews have started during the year. So we're not actually in a situation where we would naturally commence new reviews straight away once we've had AGM. So we're going to look at sourcing new topics down the line, I think, more than anything. And I'm conscious that members had identified a couple of other things they wanted to look at during the year anyway, but we can discuss that in more detail in the informal session. So if members haven't got any particular comments, Chair, that's the committee programme as is, unless members want to add any suggestions for the coming year.
Has anybody got anything to add to that?
No one indicating a wish to speak.
Thank you. Right, thank you. I'd like to move the recommendations at point 6 within the report. These are on page 23 of your papers. Can I have a seconder, please?
Second, Chair.
Thank you, Ray. Do you all accept that?
That's all in favour, Chair.
Lovely, thank you, Anna. Right, can I thank members and officers for their attendance today? That now concludes the business of the meeting, and I shall close the meeting and ask for the live stream to be ended. To the public with us on YouTube, thank you for watching. And could I please remind members to stay connected so that we can continue with our informal meeting.